All right. And we'll get started. Okay, let me say this. Can you guys see the link in the chat? Because I pinned it. It's supposed to work that way. Okay. That's the new cataloging resources page I read when I redesign the LibGuide. You're gonna be referencing that. And so I put it in the chat so anybody could have it. At any point, stop me and say, hey, got a question. Hey, there's something or whatever. Because it's just me and I don't have a co-host and I'm a talker. So when I get started, somebody's gonna have to stop me. Stop where you are. Okay. Well, I'm so excited that you're here with me. I wanted to do these cataloging refresher sessions because I know that for some of you, it might have been a really long time since you were trained. You might have been cataloging regularly. You may not have been. It might be something where you're thinking, I haven't done it so long, I don't know what to do. And maybe you're just looking for some new tips and tricks, and I have some of that too. So, but I am going to go through the basics of everything to make sure you know exactly how to do the best job cataloging. It's got to be streamlined because you guys are so busy. So let's get started. Well, whether your library is nice and neat and all organized like this one, or whether it is stacked up with a bunch of books that need to be cataloged, welcome. I'm glad you're here, and I'm happy to share with you this information. So let's start with the question of why does cataloging matter? I've given you two pictures. On the left-hand side, we've got a pile of books with a haystack underneath it. And on the right-hand side, we've got an OPAC on a laptop with a magnifying glass. Can anybody tell me what message am I trying to portray here? And just unmute and speak up.
I'm going to say organization between organization to disorganization.
Yes, absolutely. So when you think about students looking for books, if it's on the left-hand side and it's a big pile of books, then it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Now, I know your kids browse by what they like, what's popular. They pick a section like they're obsessed with something, and that's typical. But if they actually need to search for something, it's extremely important they're using the catalog. And it's important that we teach them how to use it. On the right-hand side, using that catalog is like a magnifying glass. It's going to be easier to find what you need and get what they're looking for. So this is why it matters. It helps the students find their books faster, but also it improves discoverability in the catalog. So when your records are really nice and neat and complete, when they do a search, and I'm talking about a general keyword search, not the specific kinds with Boolean and etc., it's going to search summary, it's going to search subject, it's going to search all those areas it's looking for that word. The more accuracy you have in your records, the better that search is going to work. And also, the subject searches are extremely important. And often that's the one that gets kind of the raw end of the deal because we don't vary our subjects sometimes, or we're going to talk about editing records and stuff and about subject headings. But if you have junky records, then that stuff is not available. Let me see who needs to pop in here. Give me just a second. Sorry. Let's see. All right. And then it ensures consistency across the district because honestly, when students go from school to school, they should be able to rely on those catalog records to find what they're looking for. So this is why it matters for us to have good cataloging in place. And I'm going to tell you that we're all over the place with cataloging in the district. Our department is constantly going through people's stuff. Not that we're trying to be that way, but like we go behind and try to clean up things. So that's why this is really important. All right, so let's talk about where to get MARC records. And if you're like the lady on the left, you have no idea, that's perfectly fine. If you're like the guy on the right, who's super confident, he knows where to get his records. Wherever you are in that, we're going to talk about this like a layer cake. So there are 4 layers of MARC records. Now, the first layer with that nice chocolate icing are vendors. So vendors supply MARC records, and that is from our bid. And I'm going to tell you an experience that I had. So we just renewed the library book bid as is, and then we didn't add any additional vendors. We just renewed. And I'm going to tell you that I went to speak to a library class, and I was absolutely shocked because I've been in JCPS long enough to have forgotten what it's like because I was in other districts in Kentucky. But the common theme of the night was, I can't afford shipping and I can't afford MARC records. So that's what I heard consistently over and over. One person said, I'm the only librarian in my district. There's 6 schools. I go to every school every week, and I can only do book fair books. I only do Scholastic because I can't afford shipping, which is like tragic and terrible. But it also reminded me that we don't pay for shipping and we don't pay for MARC records because of our bid. So it's actually a pretty sweet deal. But the vendors do have MARC records, and I'll tell you that they are not, even though we give them a spec sheet, they don't follow it. So we do a cleanup at LMS, and we put those records in your catalog. But the other thing that we do is when we get a new one from the vendors, we put them in the union, and that's the second layer. So our LMS union is a collection of records that have been from vendors or that we've cataloged, and they're all ready to go and cleaned up, and you don't have to do anything to them. You just need to add them to your catalog. And we'll talk about how to know if that's a union record just by looking at it. But that's the place you mainly need to look for, just for simplicity's sake. The next layer are Z39.50 servers. So what these are, in the 70s, when they started creating MARC records and OPAC, MARC is machine readable content, they, like a little consortium of people got together and said, you know what, it'd be great if we just shared MARC records with each other and people weren't doing this over and over and creating things from scratch. So they agreed to have these servers, and they're still running. It's an entity that freely shares their MARC records. That's an option for you if you go to the union and it's not there. This is the next place you go, but that requires editing. And the reason it requires editing is they have a lot of junk in their records that we don't need. Library of Congress is the worst. So we're going to look at that in a minute. And then the last layer of our cake is original cataloging. I haven't done an original cataloging session this year. People have asked, and I was sort of planning it, but I don't know, some things have happened this year. It's been wild. So I didn't get that. I'm planning on that for next year. So if you are interested in original cataloging, I'll just say it's time consuming because you're building it from scratch. Although there are tricks and little things you can do that I do. I don't catalog as much as I used to. I typically do self-published books in like a foreign language or games, manipulatives. It just depends. People ask me to help do original cataloging, but I've got the people in technical services, Kristen, Diana, and Dawn are all doing cataloging, and Kristen is our original cataloger that does the most. She's our whiz. So honestly, we will be doing some training with that in the future. So for you want to start with that union. That's the most important. Okay, now this is your workflow, your decision workflow. So how do you find your best MARC record? So you start with the union, that's step 1. If it's not in the union, you go to the Z39.50 servers. So that would be MainCat is the first recommendation we have. It used to be OhioLink as well, but they recently stopped sharing their records. I found this out from Library World. He told me that they begged them to keep them, but they refused. So MainCat and then Library of Congress if you don't have what you're looking for in MainCat. Then the fourth one would be original cataloging. And if you don't have time for that or you don't feel trained up enough for that, then you can always email us. Email Diana, Dawn, or Kristen with the title, author, ISBN, and just tell them I need this to be added, and they will catalog it for you. Rarely, they might ask you to send it in if there's something that they need to get from it, since they're probably going to be doing original cataloging. So that is an option as well. When it's time for you to look for records, that's the steps you will take. All right, so let's talk about the union first. So there's 2 ways to access it, and this is really important because the last session I did, somebody found out they didn't have access to the union. So when you log in on your homepage, you should have, now you see mine on the left says preview collection. It would be the name of your school, and then underneath it should say LMS Union. If that's not on your page, email me and let me know so we can get you signed back in. But technically, you could go to the union from this page, export a record or records, and then go back to your catalog and import them. You can do it, but that's kind of the long, hard way. it's possible. The other one is on the right-hand side, just within Library World. And the union is always the joined Library World collections. So I'm going to go over an example about adding records in this way in just a minute. So those Z39.50 servers I was talking about, when you click the customize server list, this is what you see here on the left-hand side. That's what it looks like. And if you'll notice, there's a lot of university libraries on here. So if you really, really, really want to do New York Public Library or San Francisco Public Library, I mean, you can look at those. Just remember, you've got to edit those records, and they are not ones we've prepped like a cheat sheet for. So, you know, if you're adventurous, you can do that. But you should always have Join Library World Collections checked in MainCat. So again, we're going to look at that in just a minute. All right, then original cataloging.
We've been gone such a long time, and we feel so messy. What kind of a horse is that? I've never seen a horse like that before.
No, and never will again, I fancy. There's only one of him, and he's it. He's the horse of a different color you've heard tell about.
Yeah, so original cataloging is definitely the horse of a different color because it requires you to start from scratch. And in a moment, when I go to Library World, I will show you what that looks like and how. I won't go through all of it, but I'll just show you the starting point. All right, so before we start digging into Library World, I want to do a quick MARC records comparison. And I took this book, The Good, the Bad, and the Spooky, and I pulled a MARC record for Library of Congress and one for MainCat. So we're going to start with the Library of Congress record. And when I tell you, I know this is little and you might have a hard time seeing it, but when I tell you that the Library of Congress record is wildly crazy, it's taken me 3 slides to get it on here. So if you can see it, who can tell me something you noticed right away about these records? The first part of this record, because this is not the whole record.
I mean, I feel like a ton in the beginning we don't use at all, like a bunch of them, right?
Yes, all the 900s are local records, like local fields, and those are all specific to Library of Congress. We don't use any of the 900s they have. They have them on the top and the bottom of their record usually. And the 040 looks junky, but that's typical for Library of Congress, and I'll show you in a minute what our 040s look like if you haven't paid attention to them. But there's like 042 we don't ever use. We don't use 082. We don't use the 097s. So there's a lot, like you said, Sarah, a lot at the beginning that's just extra. So if you were to use this record, although I do have people who are out there, if I'm going to be the cataloging police, that just download them and move on, they're supposed to be edited and all that junk should be taken out. But look at all these subject headings. It's pretty crazy and wild. What I want to point out here, though, is the 0 subject indicator on 650s means Library of Congress. And then the 1 is Library of Congress children's subject headings. And then you get into 6, which is a foreign language like French, but I don't really know what entity that is. And then I didn't look it up, sorry. And then 7 is actually other. So Sears falls under that, and you would use the word Sears in there in that 2 field. And then BISAC is there. And BISAC is let me look at Book Industry Standards Communication. And this is pretty recent. They just started doing BISAC records in the past, I don't like seeing them regularly in MARC records in the past, like probably 5 to 8 years. But it's an industry, like publishing industry set. So you can see in here, there's a lot of 7s that are just random other things. So Library of Congress has a lot available, but there's a lot to clean up, which is why it is not one that I recommend you start with. That's the last place you should go if you really have to go somewhere. All right, so this is a MainCat record. And what do you notice about MainCat? What do you see that looks unfamiliar, or even what looks familiar? So I was just talking about 040. It's not even there. That's something that we would add. You wouldn't have to worry about doing that. There's a 907 at the bottom. So again, that's a local field that we don't use, but this is the closest to what we do. So this is the easiest to edit, and that's why we recommend that. That's where you start with a Z39.50 server. Okay, really quick practice activity. Can you spot the fields that need to be edited for JCPS specs? For this MARC record, this is the new driver would be, or the latest driver would be from October. Can you tell me there are 3 things that are wrong? What are the 3 things that are wrong? Let's see how good you are at spotting them.
Are we supposed to, would we edit, like the 020, like would we edit that down to 1 or no?
Yeah, I mean, typically that's what we say is really 1020 should be for each type. So your hardcover should have a different one than a paperback. I mean, but they've also been known to be there in both. So yes, you would want that to be the accurate one. And yes, Jennifer, we do have the 090 is missing, the one we use on our local field for the call number. So that's, I didn't actually put the 020, so that's the 4th one. The 090 is missing. Look in the, let's see, where is it? 300s and tell me what's missing in the 300s somewhere. I'll give you a little hint. Look at the actual 300 field, and something's missing in that field. And tell me if you can see what it is. This one's tricky and nitpicky. In 300, there are no pages numbers listed. It just says pages. So it should say 200, and I think it's 91 on this one. And then the last thing that's wrong, look in the 650s and tell me which one is wrong, or shouldn't be there. If this was one of our union records.
Do we not do juvenile fiction?
That's right. That's a Library of Congress. Yep. So what I want to point out here, this KV2 in 040 is JCPS. So we add that. If it's been cleaned by us, it says KV2 on that 040. It should be the last entry. And then that juvenile fiction is Library of Congress. So if you see juvenile fiction, you automatically know that's not Sears, and that's not what we should be using. So we would make sure we change that. So very good. Okay, really quick. Again, this is I'm putting this here just for your information. We've got the Library of Congress. These are those indicators I just spoke about. Medical subject headings is a 2. 3 is the National Agricultural Library. Canadian subject headings, that was the one I was talking about, Repertoire de Vendée or whatever. I don't even know where that is. And then Sears falls under 7. Okay, so if I was going to, let's go back for a second. If I was going to go, I'm going to switch over to Library World for a second. If I was going to add something into the catalog, of course, you go and you can follow along with me and watch me, or you can do it as you go, whatever's better for you. But if you're under catalog and you click new record, because that's where we're going to add a new record, This is when I was talking about the original cataloging. So this right here, the entry number 1 is the manual. When you click whatever type of item it is, let's say it's a book, it actually will give you this short, brief information for you to fill in. And that gives you sort of the skeleton of your MARC record. So again, this is the original catalog. You're starting from scratch. All right. And then so you would just go in and fill out these parts. Then it will save it. And then you would go in and fill out whatever's missing that needs to be added. All right. So I'll go back here. But if you're adding something from the union, it's extremely important, which it's not showing me right now. Hold on. Let me see if I can make it show this way. You have to make sure that it says join Library World Collections. I'm going to start over because it's not showing me at the bottom. This is what's really important for you to keep in mind, that down here, that's what is checked, is join Library World Collections. That's your union. So you don't have to go into the union separately. You can use this. You can put in the ISBN. So let's see. This one I'll put, I'm having to type it because I don't have it with me physically. And if you look over here now, mine looks different than yours because I'm the, master controller account. So I'm seeing what schools have it. You won't have that. You'll just have, it'll say whatever's in the union. It'll say party pooper or diary will be kid party pooper. So if I didn't have this and this is not in the preview collection right now, then I would click this to add it. One thing I will recommend is always use the caret to make sure it's the right one, the right ISBN, the correct author, and the year, because sometimes things have the same name if you're searching by name, because sometimes you'll do ISBN and you don't get anything, and you might have to go by title and then change. For example, you've got the paperback, the hardcovers available, but those ISBNs don't match. So you can always edit. That's a quick edit thing you can do. If you wanted to search MainCat, you can search there. You can change it to MainCat or Library of Congress. And so I'll show you an example in MainCat. Let me look up this book. This is in both Library of Congress and MainCat. And so this book is about Switzerland. It is from 2025. It's a new one. And I would click this to add it to my catalog. And then it would give me the pencil on the right-hand side. And I would go ahead and do that right now. And then I would be able to edit this record. Over here on the right-hand side, I just click the pencil. Takes me straight to the record, and I'm ready to change whatever I need to change. I have to change it to MARC for me, because I live in a field world and I have to look at it this way. Some people might need the normal. I don't. All right. So essentially, if you find something that's in the catalog or in the union, all you have to do is get that ISBN. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. Sorry. So you got to pay attention to that stuff. That's what happens. And you're like, oh, I'm in the wrong spot. But if you're in the union and you search for the book and it pops up, then all you have to do is click it and add it, and then you're just adding a copy. So you don't even have to go through all of the other work, just adding copies. That's the easiest way. Okay, questions about any of this? About the server list, about the union, anything? All right.
I did one question. So we should go in and customize our server list and take off Ohio link, right? Because I feel like that one's still on mine, but I could be wrong.
It's not been showing up on anybody's.
Oh, okay.
But
maybe I just
if it is, then
okay.
yeah, I would. I don't even think I don't even think you can check it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and I'm sad because Ohio link was a good one too, but they just decided they weren't going to do it anymore. But yeah, if anything, I know somebody had a weird customized server list last time. So if anything like that, just let us know, and we can contact Library World about that, because sometimes weird things happen with your servers too. All right. So let's go back to this presentation for a second, and let's talk about editing MARC records. So this is the link I put in the chat, and I'll pop over there for a second. I know that I sent an email out about this, but I reorganized all of this stuff, and this is the cataloging resources, and I tried to streamline because we had so many things on one page in collection development. It was pretty wild. So these are the forms are always going to be with this little icon. So there's your request for cataloging assistance. There's your barcodes. This is the JCPS selection of instructional materials that outlines the process for challenge books if you need that information. These are important links. So this is a presentation about creating call numbers. These are Library of Congress authorities. You would use that if you were doing subject headings or like a person. You might have an author and you have to search to see if they have an authority record. And this is the Sears link, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. And then this is the actual full school libraries cataloging manual. So if you were cataloging and you ran across like maybe there's a field in the record and you're not familiar with it, this is the place you can go to search to look at that. It will give you information. What I like about this one, I'll pop over here for a second because you may have not looked at it in a bajillion years. It might be in a cabinet drawer somewhere. What I like about this catalog is it gives you examples. And it also gives you notes like it says all ISBNs should be listed in the MARC record, except ebooks, PDFs, and HTMLs. So again, like it's how you want to manage it. You can leave all the other extras. This does say you should have all the different ones, but there's been argument both ways in the department. So it's how you want to manage that. All right, let me go back to here. Then these are our guides. So this is call number prefixes, clearing error reports. So when you get those error reports, when you run that report, how to fix those. Equipment call number, genre. But this editing MARC records is the cheat sheet, is what I call it. And this is the essential elements. I'm going to pull this up for a second because this is the one that tells you exactly what should be on your record for it to be considered complete. So really quick, the control fields are system generated. You don't have to do anything, but they should always be there. You should have your ISBN, and we use 13-digit in JCPS. The 040 and the D, again, that's that KV2 sub in the subfield that I talked about. We always have the 090 call number listed here. The author should be listed, the title with A, B, and C. Record should have both a 245C and a 100A. So what that means is that C is a statement of responsibility. So the author's name is going to be there again. It should be in both places. You've got your 264 A, B, and C subfields. Then your physical description. Honestly, we do number of book pages. And then if you look at the cataloging manual, it does not tell you have to do all the like dimensions and everything. If you get a record that has it's 38 centimeters, you can leave that in there. But we don't. When you're cataloging something new, like originally, we don't require that to be in there. You'll see that in that big manual. You need a summary. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, good place to get summaries that are easy to find, or you can go to the vendors as well. And then your subject headings, you should have at least 2 subject headings, and they should be Sears. So this is the list of, if you want to, reference this when you're cataloging something brand new, this is what should always be in there to be considered complete. All right, and then I'll go back here to the editing MARC records, and this is what I always nickname the cheat sheet. So this is the one that you can have sitting with you when you're cataloging, and I know this might be a little bit small. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. All right, so it basically it gives you specific notes, like for example, it does say like the call number is required and the specs. It talks about personal name verifying with the authorities file. That's the one that's linked in our cataloging resources. But as you go down through here, it just gives you, it's kind of like bam, bam, bam. These things should be there. You can delete. For example, don't delete the series statement. And it can be added, but it's not required. Thus, like bibliography, you only have that if the book has a bibliography. You spelled out any abbreviated words. So various notes, we delete these areas of notes. You can have a 500 general note about something. That might be often what we use that for funding code if we need to put like how things were paid for, if that's being tracked. But so this is just sort of like I said, the cheat sheet. It goes through and tells you delete this, keep this. And it's just a really good reference for you to use while you're working on that. Any questions about editing records? Okay. So let's talk about Sears subject headings. I don't know if you've used this resource recently or a long time or ever, but this is something that we pay for. It's a database. If you look down here in the bottom right corner, this is when you're at home, this is the password. So it's Jefferson, KY, Dewey, KY, subject. I'm going to go ahead and I'll put the link in, or put the address in the link. I'll have to put in all that, or I'm sorry, in the chat, what I'm trying to say. Okay, let me go back to my page and get logged in really quick. All right, so let me tell you about Sears subject headings. This is not what I call user-friendly, and here's why. Because you might have a record that has Library of Congress or Library of Congress children subject headings, and you're trying to find what matches in Sears, and you're going to find it can be complicated. So if I just type in, let's say I'm going to type in dinosaurs. This is how to read Sears subject headings. Oh, sorry. Let me switch. You can't see what I'm doing. There we go. All right. So when I typed in dinosaurs, I get this list. It's in alphabetical order, so you might have to scroll down if it's something that is lower down in the list. But if you click here on this, what it gives you is a geographic note. So you can subdivide by geographical region. So you might have a dinosaur subject heading that it's like Triceratops. I don't know. I don't know what regions are for dinosaurs. I'll make up stuff. Southeast Asia. Okay. It's like, I don't really know. You'd have a book in front of you to know that. It also says types of dinosaurs and names can be added as needed. So you could have a dinosaurs dash iguanodon. So those are all options. What I like about the Sears is that it gives you Dewey. So you don't have to, whoops, I just clicked on something, sorry. You don't have to look anywhere else but here. So you already know it's a 567.9 for a dinosaur book. These are narrower terms, so it gives you the option for things that are narrower and broader. So basically you think about it, if you're thinking about from big to small, it's like the big name is fossil reptiles or prehistoric animals, and then narrower gets into dinosaurs, and then dinosaurs specifically are even more narrow. So this is a really good resource for when you're doing subject headings. However, again, you're going to search for things and you're not going to find. Sometimes it's just going to be like there's nothing there. So like if I went to ghost stories, I will say it shows you use for ghost fiction or terror tales. So a lot of times that use for will be right here on the page. It'll tell you, like, instead of saying abandoned towns in Sears, you're going to say ghost towns or towns comma abandoned. So that use for is really the best way for you. Instead of you writing a subject heading called ghost stories, you're going to put ghost dash fiction. And this is a good resource. Again, it gives you the call number in Dewey so that you will be able to assign it. So that's a pretty good resource. If you go over here, this gets into, like, if you're super nerding out about it, this talks about the whole principles and determining the subject of the work. And you can really get into the weeds about looking at a book. And in a minute, we're going to talk about that because I'm going to talk about library thing. But you could very much get into, like, that's narrower terms, and then how is it treated and what does that look like? You have geographic, you have time period. So you might have history. There's a lot. But on this left-hand side, it also has a search history. So you can look at what I've searched for. And that is, I notice it's not staying for me from the past. It's just what I've done in the session. And then there's also a usage report, which is like something that I would take here. But you can also save your searches. So you can, as you're searching, if you want to keep coming back to that, that's an option too. You can use just like the alphabetical search if you would like. I find it easier probably just to type. But again, this is a really good place to get Dewey numbers. All right, I'm going to go back to Library World for a second because I want to show you a nonfiction record. I'm going to use this one because this one's been cataloged. Okay. And so here's what I want to show you about these. So if you look over here in 650, happens to be a biography. So you can see we have the A subfield is the subject, basketball players, and then B is biography. So in Dewey, when we're doing these nonfiction books, you're going to have you may not have the V, you might not have biography, or you may not have it like a kind of a subheading, but those are possible. And again, you would get those out of Sears. But if you're doing fiction, it's going to always say fiction. And that's the key we talked about earlier. If it says juvenile fiction, it's not Sears. Let's see if I can find a fiction. We've been doing a lot of nonfiction in the preview collection. I think this is one. So when I scroll down here to my 650s, you can see here it has father-son relationship and it says fiction in the V. So fiction's always going to say that. And then nonfiction will not have a V unless it's a specific, like a biography or something very, very specific. 655 is the genre heading. And we have a list of genres, and it's on the cataloging page. But, I mean, that's a good place if you're really genrifying your library. Make sure that 655 tag is there. And so when somebody's searching, if you've given them a list, like these are the genres we have, for example, mystery, as long as that tag is there, that will really make it easier for kids to find them. So these subject headings, again, you should have at least 2 for it to be considered complete. The more tags you can have, honestly, the better. So again, it's like if you're getting a record, just looking at this one, for example, you see the father-son, you see teenage boys, you see fires, forest fires. So it's digging into like all those different possibilities. So this is a more accessible title in a search than if it just was said father-son relationship or it just said that in teenage boys. So it would pop up in a search about potentially family, fathers, sons, teenagers, but it wouldn't come up in forest fires, or it wouldn't come up in the novels in verse. So again, the more subject headings that are connected the better. But sometimes when you're cataloging, you literally are trying to figure out where something lives, like what would a good subject heading be, and sometimes it's a stretch. So you're like, okay, I've got 2, that's all I got. Sometimes that's where you are. Okay, so I really want to look at library thing, so I'm going to go to the next slide. If you are not familiar with this is I'm going to get to it. It's got to verify that I'm not a malicious bot. Not today. Maybe. Okay. So here's what I love about Library Think. If you're trying to choose a call number for something, this makes that process so much easier. So we'll start with an animal book. All right, so we know that animals are in the natural sciences and mathematics. So when I click in that 500s category, this starts breaking it into the 50, 51, 52, and so on. I know that animals are in zoology, so that's a 59. So when I click 59, it's going to break down a little farther. And let's say I'm going to do cheetahs, and they are in mammalia, so that's a 599. So I click there. And now we're getting into some very specific. So you see here we've got marsupialia. I can't even read it. Edentata, rodentia, insectivora. But I know that looking at these choices, cheetah is a carnivore, so I'm going to go with carnivora. So that's a 599.7. And if you're going to be really true to a call number, then I've got to go a little farther. So I'm going to try felines. And when I get into felines, you can see I've got cheetahs over here. So a cheetah is actually a 599.759. And of course, you know, if you want to stop at 2 for your kiddos, you can do that. We don't want things to be super complicated, but I just love this because what it does is it breaks it down into those separate parts and makes it really understandable about how to build that call number. Okay, so let me go back to, I'm going to go into 900s and show you a good example as well. So if you're in the 900s, you can see we've got history, we've got geography and travel, and then we've got history of specific continents. So if you have a book and it's a social studies book, it's nonfiction, and you're trying to figure out what the call number is, and it's got maps, but it's also got history of like an island, then you're probably thinking, well, I'm not sure what would I use? All right. So if you just went into geography and travel, it's going to break it down to specific things. So for example, this is maps and plans of surface of Earth and of extraterrestrial worlds. So if the book was about mapping out Earth, then that would be this call number, would be a 912. But if you're talking about geography of a specific place, like this is about ancient world, Europe, Asia, Africa, North America, South America, and this is like all the islands. And so I'll click this because I talked about an island. Then it breaks it down farther into these islands. So let's just say I'm doing Polynesia. And then I'm getting into like it's Fiji. So I've gotten very specific about the geography versus the history. I can say I can go even farther. I'm not going to go all the way through there. But you have to look at the book and see what's the treatment. So if you've got geography and it's talking about the geography of the area, but then it also is talking about history, you have to look at it and decide what's the largest treatment. So for example, let's just say that really it's more about the history of this place, and there are some maps and some discussion about the geography, then you're going to focus on the history side of it. And so but I love this because it really, really digs into those subcategories for you and makes it easy to go call numbers. So, I mean, you can do subject with Sears, but I like this better for really digging into something very specific. Does anybody have any questions about the library thing or thoughts about it? If you look down here, it gives you lists of certain examples, like these are in the 200s. So that's kind of helpful because if you click on one of these, you have to wait for verification again, which is fun. It's the most I've seen it. So I clicked on the Holy Bible. If I go in here, you've got a description. You have different tags. So again, these might be good subject heading ideas. You go back to Sears and double check, is this a subject heading? And these are recommendations for specific books that match this category. And these are member recommendations, which you can see people can like thumbs up or thumbs down. So I really don't spend a lot of time on these, and they have reviews. So again, this is going to be like random people reviews, but this is just another good resource if you want to dig in. There's author information, awards and honors, work relationships, classifications. So if I go to classifications, it talks about the genre, the Dewey Decimal Number. So that's the Bible, like religion, the Bible, King James Version. There's that BISAC I was talking about. BISAC is used by a lot of vendors for people to help figure out what genre a book is. But this is like Library of Congress kind of things as well. So this is just a really, really good resource to dig deeper into those books. Okay. Questions you have about anything I've talked about or anything you have that I haven't talked about at all? Like, did you come with a burning question about cataloging? The one that keeps you up at night. You're like, what do I do about that book? I don't think I ever had one of those. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute. Okay. Oh, Aaron, you said that's cool. Which feature was it that you got excited about, Aaron?
The narrowing down the call number,
Yes. I love it. It's so much easier.
because I'll be honest, I just usually go to LFPL and see what they use and
Yep.
you know,
That's the other strategy.
deal it. But yeah, that's
wow.
what I do.
I go to random like public libraries all over the country. Like, what is their call number? I've done that plenty of times, trying to find something. I do like library thing because it's very accurate. It can go really deep. I don't necessarily have to have that many, past the decimal, but it's nice to see. It also kind of helps you understand how things are categorized. So I do like that about it. That's the nerdy part of me getting excited about. Ooh, look at this. This is neat.
Throw back to library school.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
Library
free.
things
That's the
nice.
best part.
Exactly.
Library things too, like for my library, we have genre stickers on books. And so I'll get a book in and I'll see maybe it's 305 something. I'm like, okay, I generally, but I can go in and because of the way it's broken down, I'm like, oh, okay, so this is, multicultural history, or this is, family, relationships, or whatever my, match my little sticker to whatever it says.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, sometimes it's, that's what conversation we were having the other day. They've started blending so many genres. It is really actually getting more difficult to say a book is a genre.
Yeah.
It's really hard
wild.
because so it's kind of helpful to have these ideas of thinking about like what would we call something, like what is it majorly, and it's your opinion too, like it's your collection, and if you want to put it in fantasy and it's romance, what they call it, romantasy. If you want to put it in romance, put it in romance. Yeah, that's right. It's up to you. I know I love my fantasy, so just because there's some scenes in there doesn't mean it has to be romance. But anyway.
Well, it seems like most of them do now, and I have kids who will ask me, "I want a girls will ask me, I want a fantasy, but I don't want any romance," and I'm like, "Lord, I have to look it up." Yeah, I'm like, I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a trend. Those go away eventually. We'll get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Jennifer, are you talking? I can't hear you. And it doesn't look like you're muted, but I can't. Like your computer's being funny.
She's like, I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, well, you can type in the chat. We'll read what you said.
Yeah.
But no, anyway, so questions about anything. And again, if you need help, you can always call us. And like I said, if nothing else, you can send title, author, ISBN, and say, can you catalog this for me? And they pretty much get it turned around pretty quick. So like within minutes, typically, if it's something they can get a hold of. And we have a different program than you all that we can go and find things in a lot of times. And then, yeah, you got a girl looking for fantasy with romance. Like, okay, let me see. There's lots of choices. All right. Well, it is. Look, it's like 5:50. I can't read. Grammarly won't get out of my way. So it's like 5:52. You get a little extra time back. Thank you so much for being here. I enjoyed my time with you. Again, if you need anything, just reach out. We're here to help. Yeah, I don't know what's up with your microphone. It worked earlier, Jennifer. So weird. But thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks, Callie.